Hi everybody, good afternoon, rather good evening. We're just waiting for more participants to join and then we'll begin quickly. I will hand it over to Professor Sujata Karve. Some of you have not renamed yourself as your full name. Kind request to you to just name yourself so that it's easier for the record purpose as well while logging in the attendance. All right. Welcome all of you. It's already 4, so I'm going to hand it over to Professor Sujata Karve to start the proceedings for the evening. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mahesh. And very good evening to all of you, and welcome back to this second session of the Doctoral Research Orientation Program. Our speaker for today is Dr. Sudhnya Mahimkar. A very brief introduction about her. Dr. Sudhnya is an accomplished academician who has graduated in 1990 from Mumbai University and then entered the noble profession of teaching in 1992. She has since been accentuating her career graph by continuously upgrading herself, by acquiring her master's degree in town planning and then her doctorate in architecture, both from Pune University. She has been teaching in various institutes, in various architectural institutes since the last 28 years. And currently, she is the principal at MES Pillai College of Architecture, New Panvel, Mumbai. Her work in the field of research is considerable. Her 18 research papers have been published in various international and national journals and national journals in conference publications as well. She has also received Best Research Paper Awards. She has been invited to various national conferences and workshops as an expert speaker. She is currently the member of the Board of Studies at the Savitribai Phule Pune University and also a co-guide for PhD in architecture at Amity University in Delhi. With this, I request Dr. Sudhnya to please start her session.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Good evening, everyone. I think today I will start from where yesterday Dr. Vasudha ma'am has left. That is selecting a topic. So this is all about literature study and how to go about referring to a literature. So basically it's not focusing only on literature review chapter of your thesis, but general process of reviewing a literature or referring to a literature. Okay, so in this presentation, I will try to address these various questions like what is literature review, when to start, why to conduct it, where to look for the literature, who is the audience who is going to read it, and how to go about it. So these 6 questions you are looking at, I will be referring to it again in my presentation, which you are supposed to use further. Okay, so this is one statement, that is our every act, good or evil, is motivated by selfishness. Suppose this is a statement that I make, or whenever I am conversating with you and I use this particular statement, every act of ours is selfish. That can be questioned. You may say that, okay, this is your own perception, we may not agree, this may not be a fact, or a number of doubts or queries or the objections will be there. Okay, but when I just add this one particular name here, that Abraham Lincoln has said it, immediately many of you start agreeing with it. You know, this is the importance of somebody accomplished person or a well-known person, or maybe a person who has mastery or expertise in that particular field is saying something, then definitely that particular statement becomes more reliable and it gets more weightage. So this is the basic concept of referring to any literature. instead of stating our own opinions and writing an essay of our own thoughts, our own perceptions, if we get some base and support from the existing literature, that would be that would make our presentation or whatever our writings more reliable. Okay, so basically, what is literature? When we are talking about finding support in literature, what is literature? Is it the collection of all the scholarly writings on that particular topic? So you start searching for research papers and all, and whether you get the information only in those research papers, if there is no particular information is available, do you really start with referring to research papers when you are thinking about your interest area or maybe a topic? So this referring to a literature or searching for the support is not limited to the scholarly writings. Then what it is? So it can be history. You can find it in history books, or it can be reports, like it may be a government report or a white paper, or there may be some statistical data that is in a company report, or there may be some NGOs or some agencies that conduct various surveys and they publish their reports. So these can be various reports, various theories. Then there may be a lot of statistical data that is available. Dictionaries, that also becomes a literature, because you try to find out the meanings of various terminologies that you may be using later. Then the critical writing in that particular area of interest of yours. News, maybe TV, radio, newspapers, interviews, data books or handbooks. Okay, so all this can be considered as a literature. So what we can call as a literature can be any relevant information that is already disseminated, that is already printed, published and shared. So you can find this support or maybe the inspiration for your particular topic in any such relevant information. So I'm just repeating it here, reviewing the literature. Background study for you can search in history, you can search for present scenario or current scenario, census data, statistical data, critical writings, various theories, terminologies, news and other materials, and similar research project or thesis. This all can become your literature. So after you refer to this particular whatever information sources, you have to establish the need of the study in this area. This is where Vasudha ma'am has left yesterday, that how to decide or how to formulate a topic. Instead of starting with a topic, we generally start with a broad area of interest. So here you can start with this area and then you can narrow down or focus down to your topic whenever you get your admission in PhD, instead of deciding your topic beforehand. So formulate your hypothesis and then you can proceed. So when do we start looking for a literature? Should we wait till our entrance exam results are out? PhD entrance exam results are out, let us wait. तब तक क्यों करने का, नहीं मिला एडमिशन तो क्या जाता है फिर. All our efforts will be wasted. So remember, your study, whatever literature you have referred, it will never go waste. Whatever literature you study, it is sometimes it is relevant, sometimes you may come across some irrelevant literature also, or maybe less relevant literature, and you may think that I am wasting my time, but remember, it is not wasted. You may use it, make use of it somewhere, sometime in your due course of PhD journey. So when do we start? It's never too early. Start now, start right away. Even if you are just thinking about doing PhD, you can immediately start referring to the relevant literature of your area of interest, or even to find your area of interest. So once you have identified this area of interest, how do you reach the topic? That also is a journey, and this is rather a very difficult journey. Once you reach the topic, then you know what exactly you are going to do. But reaching the topic is like, okay, so reaching the topic, that is really a very, okay, is it working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a more tedious process. It is maybe sometimes disorienting ourselves reaching the topic. That area is known, but what to do exactly is not known. So what we, rather, how do we reach the topic? So find literature review type articles. Whenever you are searching for research articles, in the, at least in initial stages, I would suggest you find the literature review type articles. There are various types of articles that are published, but there are some articles which are in itself are literature reviews. So the literature that is relevant to your topic, all the literature is studied by that particular researcher, and then he has analyzed and probably synthesized it. So you get something ready, and then it may probably may guide you towards your topic. So these kind of articles, please read them fully. There are some other articles that you may collect. So just skim through these articles initially. What to look for? First, you have to read the abstract or executive summary of it. Read through the introduction section. Here you will find whether the article that you are reading is relevant to your topic, whether you will gain something through that or not, and then you can decide whether to read it or not. Okay, so then you can refer to conclusion section. And once you identify that yes, this is a relevant a paper for me, then you may read it thoroughly in detail, and then you may start taking the notes. After you find the relevant articles, you may come across that the researcher has probably mentioned that whatever a particular statement or conclusion that he has come to, the researcher might have addressed or given the due credit to whatever previous researches he has referred to or she has referred to. And this list is given in his reference list. So if you come across this and if you find that certain part is very much relevant and useful to your particular topic, go to that reference list of that particular paper and read the original article fully. Okay, so that becomes a primary source for that particular data. And this is called as a snowball referencing. So you will get all the relevant articles in the reference list. From the reference list, you can find out more number of articles, because initially it may happen that you come across say 5 to 10 articles and then you are clueless that where to find more number of articles. So this is the best way to find the most relevant articles through the references of the relevant article. Okay, that is called as a snowball effect or snowball referencing. Then find and read minimum 20 articles before you finalize your area. It will give you clear idea that where you are leading and whether there is a potential in your topic or in your interest area or not, and how much people have already worked in, whether you will be going in a right direction or not. Search for limitations and further scope for research, which is mentioned in your relevant articles. Why to refer to this further scope for research? This is somewhere you may find your topic. It means that that particular researcher has not touched upon this particular part, that is further scope for research. Means I have not done it, but somebody else can take forward from this particular point. So in my article, I am saying that there is further scope for research for this area. You may pick up from there and that can become your topic. So conclusion and recommendation sections may provide you food for thought. So you may start thinking more about your topic from the conclusion from somebody else's work, and assess an old topic in new light, context, or unique situations. See, there is a possibility for finding a new topic from this data also, like these articles also. There may be some topic you may feel that, okay, somebody has already done it, now what I can do. But it is possible in terms of various other aspects or criteria. Like suppose a particular research has been conducted in some other country. So geographical context may be different for us. Similarly, the cultural and religious background may be different for us. And another thing is time frame. So suppose the same similar research has been done, say 10 to 15 years before, then definitely if you conduct the similar research now, then your direction or your outputs may be different. Okay, so you can assess these old topics, whether there is a possibility in this different context. And when once you go through all these articles, when you start understanding and analyzing it in your mind, then start preparing research questions, or whatever questions rather come to your mind, start writing it down. Whether that can be called as research questions or not, let your guide decide that. So ask questions to yourself. Now these are the questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Because this is also an art and skill, how to ask questions, so that you will direct yourself in a right direction. So these are the questions you can start asking to yourself, and this is how you can pose your questions. This is called as 5W1H of Kaizen. Okay, these are the few examples that are given here. You can go through it later. Do not forget, start keeping a diary. From whenever you start referring to any kind of literature, even if you come across some news and you find it useful, start writing it down. Keep a separate diary for your research. Don't take your notes today in some, my child's book is there, so I will write something in that. Then there, I read something in my office, so I will scribble something on the loose paper, and then your notes are scattered in anywhere and everywhere, and then you may not be able to keep a track of it. Instead of that, start keeping a very small diary which you can carry with yourself, and start writing whatever your ideas, whatever notes, whatever questions come to your mind, whatever you feel that you need to seek answer to these questions, maybe from your guide, maybe from the literature, or from wherever possible. Start writing the questions also, start writing the answers also. Whatever questions you are asking to yourself, if you know the answers, write down the answers. Those may be right or wrong, but start writing your own answers. Afterwards, you may find in literature, or you may search in literature, whether whatever are your answers, they are in right direction or not, or whether you are getting support, or whether you are getting critics to whatever are your thoughts or your answers to those particular questions. If you cannot answer those questions, then search in a literature. So you may get your answers in literature. Okay, if you don't get answers in literature also, then what you can do, you can start thinking about how you can collect this data. Then that data collection may be somewhere on the field. You may have to ask questions to people, you may have to conduct surveys. So that will become your primary data, which you will have to conduct on your own.
Sudhna ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, Sujata here.
Yes.
There is a request that they would there's a request that people want to see the earlier slide of Kaizen. So can you just go back to that slide for a minute?
Sure, sure. Yes. Okay, should I move ahead?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So do not forget to keep diary, and what to write in diary, that also I have given you few hints. So you may start keeping diary from today itself. So whatever you are learning probably in this seminar, you can start writing, you can start taking notes in the same diary, which will be useful to you further. Now there is a difference between reviewing the literature and literature review. Initially also I told you, or rather I use these two terms, reviewing the literature and literature review. Literature review is a particular chapter in your thesis. Okay, and how to write a literature review is a different different topic altogether for any session. Okay, while reviewing the literature, I think that is my focus today. How do we review the literature from start to end? Or whether you need literature, referring to literature only in the starting, or maybe till completing your chapter of literature review. So why review literature at all? Is it necessary to review literature? In my first slide itself, I told you that there is some statement which I make, and to make it more reliable, more believable, I search for a support in literature. If I say that somebody else has already said it, some expert has already said it, then people tend to believe it, and of course it becomes more reliable data. So why review a literature at all? There are n number of reasons to prepare yourself to know most about your area. First of all, I should be aware that I don't know much. Whenever you are thinking of PhD, please enter into a student's role. Don't be under impression that I know everything, or I know most of the things and I can straight away start writing my thesis. This is not possible. Whatever we feel that we know a lot, when you will reach to the end of your PhD, you may feel that it was not even 1%. Whatever you learned through your PhD journey. Okay, so you have to prepare yourself to be a student and start collecting information to know most about your area of interest before you start. Then to establish your research premise and concern. To know everything that others have already established and gain a control or expertise on the topic. If you are researching in a particular area, you are expected to know most of the things, or rather everything in your area of interest. So if somebody asks you, okay, there is this particular theory that is related to your topic, are you aware of it? You should be aware of it. Okay, so to make yourself a kind of master in your area of interest, you must read. You must read what others have done. To identify research methodologies and techniques. Now here we have completed literature review topic, and we are moving ahead to research methodologies. So is it necessary to review literature for research methodologies also? To learn various techniques, are we aware at this stage what are various research methodologies, or what should be the approach to our thesis? No. Where do we get to know it? Again, through literature. What are different techniques? How to collect data? What are the various research methods? We don't know anything. Again, you have to refer to a literature. So then to identify main ideas, conclusion, various theories, and establish similarities and differences in your area of interest. To avoid any repetition of work. See, this is there. If you don't refer to a literature, then there is a lot of possibility that maybe you work for say one and a half years, and then you realize that somebody else has already done a PhD in the same topic, or already published a lot of research in the same topic. Then all your efforts will go waste, because it will become a repetition of topic. Whereas your research is expected to contribute, maybe in a very small way, to contribute something unique to the field of your study. And if somebody else has already done it, then you come back to the scratch and you have to start from zero. So to avoid any repetition of work in the same field, you should know what others have already done. Then to identify research gaps, from where you can pick up what people have not already done, and you may find there your niche where you can work. So identifying a research gap is very, very important to make your work unique. Okay, and last but not the least, to publish a research paper based on your literature review. So you will read a lot. Some, as I said, may be relevant, some may be less relevant, but it won't go waste. Definitely, you can use that material and you can publish a research paper which you may be using for PhD or you may not be using for your PhD thesis. So what is literature review then? This is a critical analysis of published body of knowledge through summary, classification, and comparison of previous research studies, reviews of literature, and theoretical articles. To explain it further, you have to identify what has been already established or discredited or accepted. Then various critical reviews. Are there any controversies, conflicts? Are there various theories that are conflicting each other? Are there controversies regarding your topic itself? Are there any unresolved or unaddressed issues? You may come across, whenever you are reading the paper, you may come across that this is a particular area which is not touched upon by previous researches. So somebody in some researcher in his article might have mentioned it somewhere. From there you can pick up, probably you may find your research gap there. Okay, then new emerging trends. So what is the current scenario? What is the new technology? What are the new trends? You must be aware of it. And your proposed journey based on this previous research. So that will be a research methodology. How to find and use literature effectively, how to find it and how to use it. So first of all, finding, I assume that everybody starts finding the literature by typing it in Google, at least nowadays. Okay, so if you are searching on Google, nothing wrong in it. Of course, that is our first location where we can start searching. So whenever you are searching, I would suggest you use broader search terms, synonyms of it, or maybe even other related topics. If you straight away type a particular term and search for it, you may not come across the various relevant articles or relevant material. Look harder. This is, I'm just giving you example. This is one particular theory, CPTED, that is crime prevention through environmental design. If you search in your Google's search, if you type CPTED, you will get this results. So you can see everything specifically is talking about CPTED. But am I getting some additional information in this? Look at these examples now. Instead, suppose if I type crime and spatial design, see, I'm getting some different results. Design features can make cities safer, or crime in relation to urban design case study, or revisiting the relationship between crime and urban design. Now, I'm using just a synonym of it, or the similar terms, crime and space design, not spatial design, space design. See, I come across defensible space theory. Of course, CPTED is there, but I come across some various different ideas, different theories that is possible. And that's why I'm saying that instead of searching for a specific term, search for the surrounding areas, search for the different terminologies, and search for the broader terms. Look harder, definitely you will find something. Please don't make a statement hastily that no work has been done in my area. You will land in trouble whenever you will take this topic to maybe an interview panel or maybe the jurors. You will land in trouble because many a times they are experts in that particular field and they know a lot. If you make such statements, it clearly indicates that you don't know much and you have not searched hard, which is a very base of any PhD research. Okay, so search for a most relevant and significant information. How and where you search is the most tricky part. Quality literature from reliable sources. It has to be a quality literature. It has to be from a reliable source. And analysis and synthesis of the collected information that you are supposed to do using your literature. So what to read? Again, I'm going back to quality literature and reliable sources. So what are reliable sources? Where do you get your information? Now, just in my first slide, I have mentioned some particular statement and I said that Abraham Lincoln has said it. You tend to believe it. Okay, but somebody may question it or somebody may search for it whether really Abraham Lincoln has said it. In social media, you might have come across on WhatsApp particularly, you get n number of messages, various quotes saying that Einstein has said it. So you can see I never said half the crap people say I did. This is in the name of Einstein. Of course, this also Einstein has not said. But still, it means that to make your statement more believable, people use names of various experts or masters. So you have to check that. It may not be reliable. Whatever information you get from social media may not be reliable. Newspapers and other type of news, maybe radio or maybe TV, many a times those news are commercially motivated or maybe giving you only one side. Internet. So if you copy everything from internet, does it become more reliable? I think everybody must be aware until now, because most of you must have done masters, and in your masters you must have come across this, that Wikipedia is not a reliable source. Why? Wikipedia is the information in Wikipedia is contributed by anyone and everyone. Of course, Wikipedia also checks whether the information is reliable or not, but still that doesn't make Wikipedia a reliable source. So copying everything from internet, then there are various websites which are private websites. Like say I also have my own website and I can write anything, I can publish anything on my personal website. Does it make it believable? Does it make it reliable? Does anyone cross check it? Are there any stringent filters whether what I can publish on my personal website or not? So suppose if you are searching for something and you come across my own website where I might have given some partial information, and you may take it as a base or as a support for your statements or your research. It doesn't make a reliable source. Any personal website doesn't make a reliable source. So how to make a trustworthy statement? What are reliable sources? The first and foremost is a peer-reviewed, an article published in a peer-reviewed journal by a good publisher. Why it is most reliable? Because it is filtered, checked, cross-checked by peers who are researchers in the same area. Generally, for good journals, it is always a blind review, that the reviewers or peers, they don't know whose article it is, and the review that you receive on your particular article is neutral or unbiased. And that is why it makes the peer reviewed, the publication in peer reviewed journal by a good publisher, that makes it the most reliable source of any literature. Then the statistical data, that is maybe through census or maybe through various NGOs that have conducted surveys. So survey reports and the statistical data. can be a reliable source. Now I am little deviating from my topic of literature study or whatever the course of this particular presentation. So you come across a lot of literature, you got a lot of support. At this juncture, many a times we tend to lose track of whatever literature you have studied, because in case if you are not recorded it, okay, or sometimes it is very tempting that this is an original idea by me, you want to present it like that. Remember, not giving a due credit to the previous researcher or whatever material or article or research paper that you have referred to is considered as a plagiarism, and this is a very, very serious offense in this field. So why to acknowledge? Is it only a legal aspect? There are other aspects also, which of course I'm repeating it, I know, but when you have to express a certain idea or thought, it becomes valid and trustworthy if you support it by someone famous, scientist, survey conclusions or statistical data. It becomes more trustworthy, it becomes more believable, reliable. Okay, then you can prove that a lot of work has been done in this particular field. It means this is a valid area for a particular research, and you are thinking in a right direction because many of the experts have already worked in it, and this is a right direction in which I am going. Your work then becomes more acceptable by reader or audience also. When you have referred to various proven sources, someone else may refer to your work as proven and valid research in your field. See, this is something creditable. When you go through all this process, you give due credit, and your publication or your article is published in a peer-reviewed reputed journal, then somebody else, the future researcher, will refer your article and will refer to you and give a due credit to you as a previous researcher. It provides the researcher the list of all original work to refer to directly. So this future researcher will refer to your reference section, and he may get to know the primary sources also. He can refer to the original articles. And of course, it avoids charges of plagiarism. How to avoid plagiarism? First of all, read the article completely, in detail, try to understand the context. Instead of just copy pasting, take down notes in your own words. And in spite of taking the notes in your own words, please write down from where you have taken the idea. Because plagiarism is not only about text, it is about idea also. So from wherever you have taken this idea and maybe you have presented in your own words, you still have to give due credit to the original researcher. Okay, of course you can paraphrase it correctly. If you want to use the sentence as it is, because you feel that if you paraphrase it, then the essence of that sentence may be affected or gone, then you can quote it, and you can give details whatever are required for a quote. Of course, I'm not going into those details. Then identify what does and does not need to be cited, like your own survey analysis, the common knowledge. You need not credit or you need not cite it to someone else, but if you are not sure, then include it in references. Cite your own published articles. It is quite possible that some of you might have already published some of your research papers, and if you continue with the same area of interest in PhD also, and in your PhD, suppose if you are referring to your own publication, then you cannot think, okay, this is my own work, so I will not refer it. Whenever you published it, you were not doing your PhD. At that time, whatever you have published, you have to give due credit to yourself and mention that you have taken this from your previous study and this is not your PhD study. Avoid self-plagiarism also. Then very important part, manage your citations. Again, if you start taking notes at some different locations, different maybe loose papers, if it is all scattered, whenever you are taking notes, if you don't write down details of that particular paper, you may lose all these details, and you may unknowingly, you may go to through the plagiarism process. So it's always better to maintain records of the sources that you refer to and use plagiarism checkers. So I will pick up again wherever I have left. Where to search literature. So again, I'm coming back to reliable sources. Now I have already explained what is peer reviewed research papers. Now these are some reputed journal publishers which you can consider as the reliable sources. Elsewhere, Springer, Taylor and Francis, Sage Publications, IEEE, Emerald, CSIR. In India, you can search for UGC approved journals. If you are searching online, then you can search in Google Scholar, Thomson Reuters, SCI, etc. So online also, these sources can be considered as the reliable sources instead of any personal or personal websites. Okay, then government survey reports, white papers, survey or project reports from reputed national, international survey agencies like United Nations or WHO. These agencies, they conduct various surveys in various countries. So you can depend on those survey reports, handbooks, data books, dictionaries, manuals. These sources can be considered as the most reliable sources. Okay, then we move to less reliable than these are the professional association magazine articles, patent applications, patent documents, PhD thesis. So these can be considered next reliable sources. Where to find PhD thesis online? There are various online repositories. In India, Shodhganga, most of the PhD theses are published on Shodhganga. If you take screenshots, you can take this also, where to search for PhD thesis. Okay, then next is books, conference proceedings. Why these are less reliable sources? Because they are not counter checked. You can publish a book, like I can have my own website. Similarly, I can publish my own book also, isn't it? From one-sided information, or maybe only my perceptions, my assumptions, I can publish in a book. And I may find, if it is a very interesting information or interesting ideas, then even I can get a publisher, or I can put my own money and I can publish it. So books do not make a more reliable source as such, because they are not counter checked by the experts in that particular field. Similarly, conference proceedings, many a times conference papers or presentations are not peer reviewed. So conference proceedings become less reliable sources. And the least reliable sources are articles in magazines, newspapers, TV, radio, news, interviews, YouTube videos, private websites. Does it mean that you should not use it? Yes, you can use it, but whatever information you get there, from there you move towards more reliable source. Whatever, suppose if I read something in news or hear something on TV news, then let us cross check it in the most reliable sources. So if that is confirmed there also, then you can probably use it. Okay, then there are various search platforms where you can find a lot of information, particularly research related, that is Google Scholar, Get Cited, Microsoft Academic Research, Directory of Open Access Journals, and Science Direct. Okay, now till this moment, whatever data that you have collected, now you become greedy, right? Whenever you search for sources or search for literature, you really become greedy. Many a times I come across n number of research articles, and then I feel, okay, I will download everything and then I will refer it later. So you start collecting. If you go to library, you get to access to various books, and then you get it xeroxed. Okay, I will refer it to later. So you may have a very thick file with you. You have a folder that is overflowing with your research articles that you have collected. You may not remember what you have read, what you have not read, and you have collected lots of this data. Whatever you have read, probably you have taken notes or you have not taken notes. If you have taken notes, whether you have mentioned the details of whatever the title and author and all the bibliographical details. So there are various data management softwares also, apps also. You can use those softwares like Nielsen, Mendeley, EndNote, BibTeX, RefWorks, 3x5 index cards you can maintain on your own also, RefMan, Zotero. These are various platforms where you can manage your data. Whenever you are reading, you can take down notes and you can have the bibliographical details in this data management softwares. Simultaneously, you can develop your own methods of managing your data. Like I will give you example of my own. Here you can see I tried to put all data in the spreadsheet. You can see this first part, B1, B2 are the numbers I have given to the books which I read. B stands for book, J stands for journal articles. Here O stands for online information. Okay, so this is how I named the articles which I read. This is the data that is only of articles which I read, I went through. Okay, so what all you are supposed to note down when you read it and when you plan to use it somewhere in your research. So of course, author name, year of publication, title, publisher, ISBN number, place of publication, pages, keywords, and theme. Keywords are really, really important because maybe say if I read some article today and after say 1.5 years, when I start writing down a chapter of say literature review, I remember that there is something which I read regarding this particular theory and I don't remember where I read it. If you have taken down notes, it's really difficult to find in which notes I will find this particular data. So instead, in this particular spreadsheet, if you write your keywords, okay, this particular theory, you can come at, you can see here, maybe women only spaces, gender, open public spaces. These are my keywords. Women and public spaces, say risk perception. So if I want to find something about risk perception, what I read about, this was my theme. In the spreadsheet, I just search for risk perception and I come across say few articles which are talking about risk perception. So my it becomes a very short list where I can find where I might have read it. Okay, simultaneously, whenever you read any article and if you find it useful, you start writing a review or taking down notes. If you start writing a review there and there, you can directly use this in your literature review chapter or in any other chapter henceforth. So I will again give you example of my own. Okay, it's not accessible right now. Anyway, I can show you later maybe. So for this all say B1, I have written in Word, MS Word. I have taken down notes. The notes are taken in a particular color, say red color, and whatever I am writing on my own will be in a different color. So on my own, whatever I am writing, I can just use this data B1. So I have all the details available, and whatever I have written in my notes in my own words, now I can identify which are my words and which are author's words. So my words, I can directly use it in my article or in my chapter. Okay. So how to write a literature review? This is all about literature review chapter. So first of all, setting your research problem. Your research, your literature review chapter talks about setting your research problem. And how do we go about it? First of all, the large foundation of it is your topic and subject area. You start searching for a literature for the broader subject area. Then you try to identify a research problem, something that needs a solution. Okay, then justify your research problem or whatever you are trying to convey or pose as a research problem. Try to justify it through literature evidences. Identify a research gap, find your niche, and then you can think about what can be your contribution. How to go about it? First of all, you have to establish a research premise, research gap, research your contribution, in what way your contribution will be. So establish a research premise, conduct literature searches, and group those articles into various categories. So whatever you have read, maybe in this, you can see these keywords and theme. These themes are actually a categories. So if I am searching for a particular theme, I will come across specific articles which I need. So group your articles into various categories. You can use your own way to do it. Keep notes of important points. Keep track of bibliographical data. Summarize the literature into a table or concept map format. Again, whichever is convenient to you. Then you can identify research gaps and your approach to survey or primary data. Like how you will be collecting your primary data, what will be the research methods you will be using, and how you will conduct the surveys. So how to use this collected literature, how to do all this grouping the articles and analyzing and synthesizing. So first of all, you have to identify your themes and sub-themes. Various articles you come across, you have, okay, you have already mentioned it under a particular theme or with some keywords. So there may be, say, there are 4 different papers of 4 different themes. There can be sub-themes to those papers. Whenever you are taking down notes, you can identify those sub-themes, relate, cross-reference, compare these 4 papers, and then you may come across with your own thoughts. Whenever you are comparing, you start analyzing, you will come up with your own thoughts. Okay, so that is synthesizing, how you are going to use it in your own paper. So that is a process of synthesizing. And then you can start composing your literature review with continuity. See, continuity is very important. You cannot just mention that one particular author has said this, then the second paper, second author has said this. I came across some of Emarch thesis. Like Emarch thesis, you are asked to refer to some research papers, maybe say 4 to 5 research papers, and you are asked to write a review of that. So I came across few theses, Emarch thesis, where in literature review chapter, they have actually done this, say paper 1 review, paper 2 review, paper 3 review. But this compilation of that, the understanding of all these 5 papers together, analyzing it, and then synthesizing and using it to your chapter or your thesis is missing. So this is what is required now before you actually start your thesis. Okay, so synthesis is very, very important. Putting everything together and coming up with your own ideas is very, very important. And then you can start composing with continuity. And then you can conclude. A literature review is not a descriptive list of papers. Whatever you read, you need not put it in your literature review. A summary of one paper after another. It is not expected to be a summary of 1 paper, 2 paper, 3 papers. Okay, and it is not everything that you have read for your research. Then how to organize this literature review chapter so that you can avoid this. First of all, you have already categorized your papers, whatever you have read, the literature. You can organize it, your literature review chapter, based on those themes. Or if it may be a history related topic, then you can organize it chronologically. Or you can organize it in with reference to various methodologies that the authors have used, or in different papers, the different types of methodologies, and you can categorize methodologies and then you can explain upon that. So of course, these are few examples. You can develop your own way of putting it. See, the tricky part of literature review is you have to write about what has already been established, has already been published, but interpreted in new light, and it should be original. There is a self conflict in this statement, but still you have to go through whatever has been published and you have to come up with something original. The process of writing literature review, this is I think commonly known. They will go through it. First of all, you choose the topic, explore it, then focus, narrow it down, collect literature, read, relate, analyze. Whenever you start reading, you will realize that there is a need for more literature. So you go back, collect more literature. You go forth and start writing, revising, polishing. When you start writing, again, you will realize that there is a need to read a particular article again, or maybe to collect the data again, or collect more literature. So again, you go back, and you have to simultaneously manage data and citations. Okay, so this is the process. You have to keep on going back and forth till you finalize your literature review chapter. Now, what are the contents of thesis? These are generally your PhD thesis is generally composed of these basic 5 chapters, that is introduction, literature review, methodology, data analysis, and conclusion. You need to review literature or refer to literature at every stage, in every chapter. Whenever you are writing each chapter, each part of it, you may need to refer the literature. For introduction, for literature review, of course, I will just go through this literature review of my own thesis, so that you will just come to know that how the chapter is organized. Okay, so there is introduction part. Then it starts with a particular theme, say urban life and stresses. It is actually narrating a story.
Ma'am,
it is actually, yes.
Sorry, ma'am. Have you switched on to another file? Are you showing through some another file? You'll have to reshare the screen, because we still see the contents of thesis slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I will allow. Just a second. Just a second. Yeah. Now you can. Now you should.
Yes. Okay. Are you able to see it now?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay. So the chapter, it starts with, of course, introduction. Then it takes you through a particular theme. Like there is urban life, and due to urban life, there are various stresses. So it narrates a particular story and taking you through that story. And while telling this particular story, we are dealing with or referring to various research papers or literature. So you can see, whenever we are stating something, what are urban stressors? I am explaining it. So somebody has already explained it somewhere. Or even if I have understood it from some particular research paper, then I am giving a due credit to that particular author. Okay, then there is another theme, that is quality of life. Everywhere you can see, in almost every paragraph you will see n number of citations. Yeah, this is, I was talking about quote. So if you cannot avoid copying a sentence as it is, then please give it like this as a quote, and you have to give details of it below. Okay, it is generally in italics and into inverted commas. Okay, so this is explaining all various themes. Then there is a history part of it, the evolution part of it. This is all literature, but it is put in a particular format so that it should look like a single narrative, and it should not look like information that is collected in pieces. Okay, can I share it?
Just a second, ma'am. Just a second. Yes, now you can.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a literature review chapter. Then methodology chapter also, you whatever methodology and methods that you will be implementing, for that also you will have to refer to a literature, what other researchers have implemented, what kind of methods they have used, and whether you can use it as it is or you can make some few changes and adapt it to your own thesis. So for that also you will have to refer to literature. Data analysis, methods of data analysis, ways of it, and then the collating the data. For that also you will refer to the literature. So my point is, at every stage, in every chapter, whatever you are writing, at that particular point, you will need to refer to a literature. Okay, so this is what finally I came up to at the end of my thesis. So this was my research methodology. On left side, you can see the collection for a particular chapter, that is literature review. So there are various themes, there are various sub themes, theories, and for each of this, I have searched for a literature. Okay, on the right side, you can see this is searching for various tools, research methods, research methodologies, collating the data, analysis part. So again, for all this, also a literature was referred. Okay, so coming to the end, what are our common errors, what to avoid while referring to literature? Using very old, that is older than 7 years. Ideally, it should be less than 3 years or 5 years or max to max 7 years. So older than 7 years literature becomes or is considered as very old literature, and you may be asked to find a latest information in that particular area. Getting lost in the literature. You keep on reading and you fall in love with that particular area or that particular literature, and you get carried away. Sometimes at this juncture you feel that whatever theme or sub theme you are reading into, you may feel that there is more potential in this particular theme or in this particular sub theme, and my topic has less potential. So why not switch over? Why not change the topic little bit and direct it to this particular theme? So this is kind of getting carried away. See, it happens with almost everybody. And whenever you get carried away, again, you start reading a lot. You may feel that it may be less relevant to your topic, but you are so much interested that you start reading a lot in that particular area. So this is where guide plays a very, very important role. There needs to be somebody जो आपका कान पकड़ के आपको track पे लाए. Okay, now you have already read it, and is it wasted? What can you do with this particular study? So this is where again guide plays a major role. This happened with me, particularly when I was searching for women only spaces. Like, yeah, I did not talk about my topic. It was gender appropriate uh, public leisure spaces, case of Mumbai. Yesterday, ma'am has referred to it. So when I was searching for various themes and sub-themes, I started digging into history, that how this issue was addressed in historic times. So I came across, not only in India, all over the world, in history, there were some specific spatial sex segregated spaces. Like, there are different spaces for men and different spaces for women. And this is how the issue was addressed. And there were certain spaces that are accessible to women. So sex segregation in public spaces, this was the sub-theme that I entered into. And that was so interesting that I started digging into it. And then at a particular juncture, I felt that there is a lot of potential into this. And I actually asked ma'am whether we can change our topic to this particular theme. So instead she said, you have collected a lot of information. Now let us get back to the original track, and whatever information you have collected, you can publish it. So we wrote a paper and published a paper based on that. Study of women only public spaces to encourage women's mobility in the urban environment, and gender sensitive urban landscape, history of changing ideals and current practices. So history of changing ideals, here we dealt with the sex segregation in history. And coming to the current scenario, we actually conducted a survey. It was not very relevant to the topic, but we actually conducted a survey in the current scenario and current sex segregation in public spaces, like say train coaches, women only coaches, or women only waiting rooms, or women only gardens. So we came across with these kind of sex segregation in public spaces. We conducted the survey and we published a paper with reference to that also. And that's why I said, whatever you do, whatever literature you study, read, nothing goes waste. You can use it. Okay, so again, getting back to track. Not noting down bibliographical details while reading the article, taking notes. This is very, very important. I am repeating it many a times, but it is really very important, because if you lose track of it, you tend to incorporate that detail or the information without giving due credit. And that will be identified as a plagiarism. So unwittingly plagiarizing, inserting long URLs in the body of a study. Here you have to identify how to reference, how to give citations, in-text citations that you may come across maybe in later in this series. Then irrelevant content. Because I have read it, I want to put it. Don't incorporate irrelevant content. It is not necessary. Even though you have read it, you can keep it aside. You may use it later for some other purpose, some other publication. Not going over the methodology section of a reviewed article. See here, something you may find some unique methods, some different methods, and you can develop your own methodology based on those. So don't ignore this particular section of any reviewed article. Relying on too many direct quotations. Your literature review should not be filled with quotations. Rather, understand, rephrase it, put it in your own words. Using non-scholarly sources. News are very interesting, and we tend to use those news, or maybe some very interesting quotes or interviews. So these non-scholarly sources, as I said, are or not much reliable sources and cannot be considered as a reliable literature support. Not referring to original articles, that is primary sources. So if you read a particular article and there the researcher has mentioned the original author, you tend to feel ki, okay, yahan pe diya hai, I will quote this particular author only and not go to the primary source. But primary source, you may find something better, something more interesting, and something original. So you please refer to those primary sources also, which will lead you to more number of articles, more relevant data. Then citing only supportive source. See, our research has to be neutral, has to be unbiased. So searching for only such articles which will support our hypothesis or our presumptions will not lead you to this unbiased study. So try to search for another side of the coin also. Adding references in the reference list which you have not used in the text body. Again, you might have read say 400 articles, but whenever you are writing your thesis, you are actually using say 200 or 250 references. So don't put all those 400 because you have read it. Okay, so in your reference list, you have to incorporate only those whatever you have read it for writing this particular review. So final checklist, again going through, have you indicated purpose of your review? Have you emphasized recent developments? What is the current scenario? Have you organized your material in a logical way? Have you related or the relevant information? Have you included those details? Have you been sufficiently critical? Have you analyzed both the sides of it? Have you indicated when results were conflicting or inconclusive and discussed the possible reasons of that? Has your summary of current literature contributed to the reader's understanding? Or you are just mentioning whatever you have read and it is leading nowhere? So it should conclude in a proper manner and it should contribute to the reader's understanding of your area of thesis or research. So this smooth landing is very, very important. I know it's easy to say but difficult to follow, but keep walking through the storm. Your rainbow is waiting on the another side. Okay, and this storm, once you enter, you will actually enjoy it. This is an enjoyable journey. So do enjoy it. Thank you and all the best. Mahesh sir, Sujata ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, Sujata ma'am will take up the questions. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Studna. I think it was a very comprehensively understood literature part of it. There were a lot of questions which were coming through. Actually, many of them got answered as your presentation went ahead. But just for reference, I'll just take a few of them. There have been questions, I put them together, which have been asking about reliable sources. What are the reliable sources? What are not reliable sources? But I think that has been answered, so that need not be taken up. There also have been questions about databases. So whether these databases, many of these databases are not accessible because they are either paid or So what are those databases which can be accessed freely, and can you recommend any of them?
I have given few actually. The links I have already mentioned in my presentations. But
Okay.
I think you have to rely on library and your institute subscriptions, online subscriptions, or university online subscriptions, because paid data otherwise you cannot access.
Also, there have been questions about open access journals and things like that. So can you recommend any of these journals or databases?
Yeah, most of the publications which I have already mentioned, they have open access journals also. See, there are very few publications which have only open access. They have paid subscriptions as well as open access. So you can access only those articles which are open access. And if you come across something that is useful, which has to be paid, then you cannot access it, or you have to access it through your institute subscription or university subscriptions.
Yes,
Yes,
I
sir
think
has mentioned Shodh Ganga. For thesis, I think I have mentioned n number of sources, and those sources give you free access to the thesis, PhD thesis. You can even download those theses from there.
there was an interesting question towards the end. Actually, Vasudha ma'am has answered it, but for everybody's reference, there was a question as to how you have made that mind map that you showed and whether you've used any application for it. So actually, ma'am has answered it, but we would like to hear it from you too.
It is really interesting. Actually, there was one software, mind mapping, and I downloaded it at a particular juncture of my PhD. And I thought that I will prepare this mind map. It was a period of, say, free for 1 month. Okay, and I thought that I will prepare it, and maybe after 1 month, my mind map is already done and I won't require it. So I prepared it there. I took the screenshots, and after 1 month, it was not, of course, accessible to me, my own data. So I had to rework on it, and I prepared it finally in PowerPoint only. So there is a learning for all of you, that whatever free softwares that are available to you, either you purchase a complete software, or you please don't go for it, because this limited period of 1 month or 3 months, whatever you work on it, it may not be accessible to yourself later, and you will have to rework. Your energy is wasted, your time is wasted. So I think there is a learning for all from my experience.
Thank you, Sudha ma'am. Again, there are a few questions which I think will be addressed, one in tomorrow's presentation by Dr. Nathu. So I will not take that up. Another one, again related to literature, again, ma'am has answered it, but databases like Academia or ResearchGate, how useful they are and whether they can be relied on, the papers that are available in these two databases.
Again, as I said, you can publish anything on these platforms. These are not necessarily peer reviewed. So how much to trust these sources is up to you. If you come across something on Academia that is already published in some peer reviewed journal, then definitely you can rely on that. Sometimes it happens that say my article is published in a journal which has a paid subscription, but I make it available on Academia platform for all, then you can definitely rely on that. So see whether it is published in a peer reviewed journal or not, or it is published directly on Academia or LinkedIn or such platforms.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sudhna. Dr. Vasudha ma'am, Dr. Nathu sir, do you want to address any of these also?
Yeah, there are a few questions on which journals we should go for. And that is a very relevant question. Not only, are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir,
we
very
can hear
clearly.
you. Yes.
So it is a very relevant question, not only for PhD scholars, but also some of them who are teachers. And what publications will be considered valid if you are, publishing? Those who are aspiring PhD guides, for them also. So UGC, if you go on the UGC website, there is this UGC care list, which is a comprehensive list. There you will have to log in. But once you log in, they give you a complete list. There is A list, a B list. One list is Web of Science, other list is of Scopus listed journals. And there you will find journals. But don't just search for architecture or landscape architecture or urban design. Now, once we go into PhD and generally research, the boundaries become blurred. You are interdisciplinary in approach. Just like Dr. Sudhna demonstrated how her research was in into urban design, landscape architecture, and also social sciences and feminism and all that. So don't just search for our terms, but search for relevant keywords, and then you get a good list of journals. And from those list of journals only you prefer to publish, and only then those publications will be considered. From the list only the journals will be considered for any, for academic progression or PhD guideship or PhD publication as a part of your coursework and so on. So just go on to the UGC CARE list and see those journals.
Thank you, Dr. Nathu. Just one last question, I think, and then we can call it a day. Again, related to the literature part of it, there is a question asking that there are primary sources that can be dated beyond 7 years or so. So do we mention it in our citations, even though it has been repeatedly cited in subsequent researches?
Shall I answer? Sudhya
Yes.
madam wants to answer. Let her answer.
Sudhya ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll have to unmute her.
Okay.
I have withdrawn the, yeah.
The question was if the article is beyond 7 years old, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, in that case, see, if it is a classic data, if it is say a particular theory, then you can definitely use these old articles, no problem. But if it is some findings, then if you come across such paper, try to search for new findings also, that is latest. Does it answer your question?
I think so.
If it is a classic data, then you can consider 10 years old articles also, or 15 years old articles also. Yes, so definitely
Yes.
you can use classic data from old articles.
The reason why probably 7 years this is being mentioned is that when you're doing a PhD and it is like you are adding to the knowledge. So the knowledge which is just, past 4 or 5 years somebody has added, you should be updated with that. And you have to take it further. If you refer to something which is 15-year-old and then you claim that I'm going to add, but there was someone in between also who has added something in between, which you missed out. Therefore, it is better for PhD that last 4 or 5 years latest articles and journals you refer.
Thank you, sir. I think Mahesh sir, Vasudha ma'am wants to say something. If you could unmute her.
She can unmute herself, but I'll just do that. Just a second. Vasudha ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
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 I want to add only that sometimes if you are having some historical archival research or very basic paper about theories, so you won't get any paper which is recently written. So that is the only limitation for that. Because many theoretical paper, they are older and you don't have any kind of new literature out of that. But definitely, preferably the latest ones. Right. Yes,
Nathu sir, there is a question.
Care list.
Care list that you mentioned.
I already answered one question in the chat box.
It is a dynamic list, so what to do?
Yeah. So when say today you are submitting online. For example, the article is ready, you are submitting to a journal. Now, as a piece of advice is that screenshot of that journal, UGC web page mentioned, keep a screenshot for your reference that on this day, on 10th of July at 4:25 p.m., the journal was in the UGC list and today I have submitted. Keep a screenshot. Because UGC obviously is in the process of removing dubious journals. because this kind of effort, particularly in India, has been done in only past 3 years. So they are continuously updating the list, removing old lists, adding new journals. So it is but obvious that certain journals will get removed from the list. So at the given point, just keep a screenshot and a record that you have submitted on this day, and on that day, and UGC also, whenever they publish a list of removed journals, they always say that at that point onwards, that from today, if the list is published, this point onwards, don't submit in this.
Yes.
For that, they accept.
Yes, I think that should answer the question which keeps coming to everyone's mind.
Even we are even we are very much disturbed many times. Okay, kal tha aaj nahi hai.
It becomes frustrating for some people because my article is published, but now the journal is not in the list.
Good.
Okay.
So I think most of the questions are over. For all the participants, I have posted the link for the attendance form. Just fill it once and I will get it. I will subsequently, once I get this attendance, I will be subsequently posting the link or mailing the link for the quiz like yesterday. So please fill that up also and send it. And just to reiterate, I will again tomorrow morning send you a mail with the new password for you to log in for tomorrow's session. So please keep checking your mails. Just in case you do not get a mail from me by 1 o'clock, please message me so that I can check back and send you the password. But please keep checking your mails because I will be communicating with you regarding these links as well as regarding the passwords and regarding the quiz links through the mail itself. Okay. Thank you, Sudhna ma'am, for a wonderful session, and see you tomorrow. And I think all of you will be looking forward to tomorrow's session because there are many questions that can be answered from tomorrow's session also. So thank you, Nathu sir, thank you, Shubhda ma'am, thank you, Vasudha ma'am, and bye and see you tomorrow then.
Okay, bye. Thank you all.
And there's a question, somebody asked whether we have to fill the link, today's link. Yes, it is not a registration link, it is an attendance link.